Talking About with Jamie Jakes. I am him, and I am here to talk about Deshaun Watson in more of an update sense, as my dog has a squeaker toy right into the microphone to start our show. There he is, Mr. Boston, Meatloaf over my right shoulder. We're recording here in Dallas, Texas. So I released a video this weekend kind of going over exactly what I was thinking my perspective was on the Deshaun Watson situation. So if you didn't see that video, I'd recommend you go back and look at that. I'll leave it like right up in here in one of those little tag things that YouTube does a good job about providing to us. Basically what I said, to summarize it, is I think that Deshaun Watson, you know, maybe it was misreported, maybe it was misdiagnosed. What I think it was Deshaun Watson kind of taking the easy way out with this injury, using it as an excuse. And pretty much immediately following that, there were multiple updates. So leading up to that video, we had heard contusion, and then the contusion became a rotator cuff contusion. Since then, the injury has been updated to a deep strain-like contusion. And then even more so now, they got specific with it with the subscap injury, okay? So I had 4 years undergrad, graduated as an athletic training major, and I was certified for a little bit of time as an athletic trainer out of college for undergrad. Since then, I became a chiropractor. I own and operate 2 offices here in the DFW area where I primarily work with non-catastrophic overuse injuries, similar to what Deshaun is reportedly going through right now. So I would consider myself an expert on that. If he ruptures his rotator cuff, you know, I'm sending you to an orthopedic surgeon. But this sort of thing is exactly what in my office I treat every single day. Also, for the record, for what it's worth, I am a D3 All-American wrestler. I was 5th place in the nation at 197 my senior year. If anybody wants to question my knowledge on being tough. Okay, so moving forward, I hate that I have to do that, by the way, but moving forward, on the medical side of things with Deshaun Watson and his shoulder injury, a subscapularis muscle is a rotator cuff muscle. It's an interesting rotator cuff muscle because it is tucked on the bottom side. So if this is the back of your shoulder blade, if you're looking at the posterior side at someone's back, you'd be looking at the shoulder blade like this. And I'll probably put a graphic here for you too, so I don't know why I'm using my hands. But anyways, the subscap or the subscapularis muscle sits on the inner side of the scapula, which is really interesting because originally this was reported as a contusion, okay? It went from contusion to rotator cuff contusion to deep strain-like contusion to now it is an injury of the subscap muscle. Okay, so maybe you're thinking, how the hell do you have a contusion? How do you have a bruise on a muscle that doesn't face the outer side of your body? Which is a good question. The only way for a therapist like myself to directly target, to do manual therapy, to basically massage this muscle, is you have to have your patient lift their arm up like this, and you have to go up and in. You can feel that muscle at home if you want to. It's that muscle kind of deep up in your armpit, kind of underneath your tricep, in like in front of your lat muscle. Like this is your big lat muscle right here. As my dog is trying to lick my armpit. That's where the subscap is, okay? Impossible unless someone forcefully poked you in your armpit, which would have other injury concerns as well. Impossible to have a contusion in that area of your body. I saw a couple people speculating that you could have gotten hit in the shoulder really hard and that forceful shoulder hit could have pushed the subscap muscle into the rib cage. Total nonsense, impossible to happen. There are other tissues underneath that allow for cushion. In particular, animals are fighting. There is primarily a muscle group called your serratus anterior, which attaches on the inside of on the inside of your shoulder blade, underneath your shoulder blade, which will provide for cushion to prevent that sort of thing from happening. Okay, so that's the medical side of things. Also important to note that this is probably the worst muscle to have a strain on or to have hypertonicity in, like a tight muscle, for lack of a better word. This would be the worst muscle to have for a thrower. I think it was Schefter kind of tried to explain what the muscle is. So it is an internal rotator, which means it brings your arm in like that. He said it kind of stabilizes your arm when you're overhead. Yes, sort of, but not really. More importantly, because it's an internal rotator, when a quarterback is going through an external rotation, which this is external rotation of your shoulder, when a quarterback does that, they are stretching their internal rotator, so primarily your subscap muscle. So this is not a good muscle to have an injury in when you are a quarterback in the NFL. Of course, I treat these injuries all the time in my office, non-catastrophic. So let's get to that side of things. A big time recovery. He was medically cleared to play football by the people in charge, which tells me there's a 0% chance of re-injury in this muscle, okay? He was cleared in week 4. By week 5, not able to go in week 6. And what did we hear through this whole process? The Cleveland Browns organization, whoever those sources are leaking this information, keeps on trying to up the ante with making the injury sound as bad as possible. Another interesting note, Stefanski clearly wanted him to play, was expecting him to play in week 4. Haven't heard much from him since. He says, oh, he's trying his best. But now the Browns organization are like, we're going to keep our guy healthy, all right? We're going to play it safe. And I was like, well, that's not what y'all were saying in week 4. He's like, oh, we want to have him 100% before we send him back out there, which is another fishy thing. There's a lot of fishy stuff, including this injury, okay? So getting down to what I think it could be. Number 1, could be somebody really fucked up in the training staff in diagnosing this injury, and he did have a pretty severe subscap strain, and they just missed it. Do I think that's very likely? No. I like to think that professional football teams employ really knowledgeable and talented therapists, and hopefully a few of them got their hands on Deshaun leading up to even before week 4. I think they had a pretty good idea what the injury was at the time. It was pretty mild. They're expecting him to play. So that is a possibility. I don't think it's very likely. Again, could it be misreported? Maybe. Could be a misreported issue, some lost in translation sort of thing. Is that very likely? No, because they've gotten more and more specific with the injury that we are working with. Okay? Is Deshaun soft? There's no way to know that for sure, except we look at his history. He's played through some pretty severe injuries in the past, which is even more confusing. Why is this an issue now? Deshaun Watson's contract fully guaranteed, which means he's getting PTO. He's getting paid 100% of the money that he would have made for this game, sitting on the sidelines injured, versus what he would have gotten if he would have actually played against the 49ers, a game that the Cleveland Browns surprisingly won out of nowhere, which was ultra surprising. Cleveland Browns defense appears to be all that, and PJ Walker was able to just do just enough to keep the Browns in the game and win at the very end. It's a hard stadium to kick in. Of course, the San Francisco 49ers missing that 41-yard field goal to lose at the end of the game. Okay? Is Deshaun soft? No, I don't think so. But now he doesn't have money concerns to play. He gets paid the same either way. Which now gets me into what I still think is the issue, is I think Deshaun mentally, competitively, is not where he needs to be to operate as a starting NFL quarterback, okay? We saw him meditate with a coach on the sideline of the Pittsburgh game. That game did not go well. He did come back in week 3. Had a great performance, his best game as a Cleveland Brown. Had a little bit of an injury to his shoulder, and it's starting to feel like the pressure is kind of closing in on Deshaun, and he's taking this as an out to use it as an excuse to hopefully maybe get his mental state prepared for the rest of the season. I've been getting a little kickback on that on the X, on the social medias, for me putting out that point of view. My response would be, what about Boston? What about Deshaun Watson's recent history makes you think he is someone of high moral standing and is someone who has, good character, okay, as a human being. Let's just, putting that out there. Getting to the conspiracy side of things, we did see like, hey, he's kind of doing like a hold-in situation, which I love. I admit I love conspiracies. I love that they're trying to form a coup against Coach Stefanski. I've never been a big fan of his. Although in the post-game locker room, Coach Stefanski was yelling at the guys, and body language-wise and response-wise, seems like the team is pretty much with Coach Stefanski. Of course, after a big win, why wouldn't you be? After beating the odds-on favorite to win the damn Super Bowl this year with a backup QB, without your best offensive lineman in the game, injuries throughout the roster, why wouldn't you be excited after this big win? Okay, so I still think that side of things is a little bit far-fetched, to say the least. Getting to Coach Stefanski, could this just be a massive fuck up on his side? Honestly, wouldn't surprise me. He is like a baseball nerd. That's kind of what is running this Cleveland Browns organization, is just baseball nerds. Looks like they've put together a pretty good team, those baseball nerds, by the way. But maybe Coach Stefanski kind of spoke out of place and kind of pressured his quarterback into playing when maybe he shouldn't have. So we have seen that in the past with Baker Mayfield. He played a lot of games when he probably shouldn't have, definitely shouldn't have, couldn't perform with the non-throwing arm shoulder, just being an absolute mess, having a big brace on it, which really threw off his throwing motion 2 years ago playing for the Cleveland Browns. Now he looks great. He just lost to the Lions, by the way, at home. Didn't have his best game, but the Lions are probably pretty good too. Which will be a conversation for our power rating show. So there is a little bit of room left in my brain. Maybe this is just a Coach Stefanski thing, given just a little bit of benefit of the doubt for Deshaun Watson. But yeah, that is my opinion on the whole situation. Tell me what you think. Hopefully I won't have to do these videos about Deshaun Watson again, although it is, doing pretty good numbers. A lot of you watched it last time. So I do appreciate you if you are watching. If you are watching, please leave a comment, a like. Please subscribe to the channel. And now that the Browns won without Deshaun, what if we get the injury report Wednesday and Deshaun is a full participation? I think that would confirm a lot of the things that I have been hypothesizing about this injury. Haven't got a straight answer out of him. He's telling reporters different things. Different beat reporters are hearing different things about him. He'll be back next week. He'll be out for several weeks. I'll be interested to see what the tone change is coming out of the Watson camp and coming out of the Cleveland Browns after a win. Browns 3-2 going in to the rest of the season. Thank you for watching. Good night.